हेलो गाइस, वेलकम टू रियादिका ट्यूशन। और आप सभी देख रहे हैं रियादिका यूट्यूब चैनल। और आज मैं इंग्लिश के मोस्ट इम्पोर्टेंट क्वेश्चन बताने जा रही हूँ। आशा है कि आप सभी को इससे कुछ ना कुछ हेल्प होगा। एंड वो सारे जो मोस्ट इम्पोर्टेंट क्वेश्चन है वो इस प्रकार है। अंजनी आपको डिक्टेट करके बताएगी। चलो अंजनी स्टार्ट।
Write a character sketch of Mrs. Pumphrey. Mrs. Pumphrey was a very wealthy lady. She was very loving to his dog Tricki. She pampered and overfed him. She gave him much nutritious food. Tricki was very greedy. He never refused food. This made him hugely fat and lazy. Mrs. Pumphrey was much worried about him. She thought that he was suffering from malnutrition. Malnutrition. So she gave him energy food. She almost swooned when Harriet told her that Tricky must be hospitalized for a fortnight. She thought that Tricky would pine and die if he did not see his mistress even for a single day. She was very grateful to Harriet for his service to Tricky. Question second. What is the central idea of the poem The Ball Poem? In order to give the central idea of the poem, we have to know the name of this poem. The name of this poem is The Ball Poem and the poet is Mr. John Berryman. The poet gives the sense of lose in life. Loss is the fact of life. The sooner man can tolerate it, the better it is. When we lost something for first time, we feel very bad. But after some time, we learn to live without our loss. In this poem, the boy lost his ball. He was very upset. The poet can buy another ball for him, but he didn't want to do so. The poet wants that the boy must learn the bitter fact of life that everyone can suffer for a loss something dear. Question third. How does Nelson Mandela describe the scene of inauguration? Nelson Mandela says that the inauguration took place on 10th May. The day was bright and clear. A huge gathering of international leaders had assembled in Pretoria to mark the end of white supremacy. The ceremony took place in a big open building in Pretoria. When the ceremony began, Mr. De Klerk was sworn in as second deputy president. Then Mr. Thabo Mbeki was sworn in as first deputy president. Then it was turn of Nelson Mandela. He was sworn in as the president of South Africa. He pledged to obey and uphold the constitution. He dedicated himself to the well-being of his people after the ceremony. There was a spectacular show by jets, defense and police force. The show symbolized the military's loyalty to democracy. Question 4. Explain the detailed summary of a letter to God. Lencho was a hard-working farmer. He was expecting a good harvest, but unfortunately, a hailstorm came and destroyed his crop completely. Now he had nothing to support the family. He had no money to purchase the seed for sowing, but he had a firm faith in God. He believed that the God would help him. He was a simple man. He wrote a letter to God. He asked God to send him 100 pesos. He wanted this money in order to sow seed again and to live until the next harvest season. Lencho went to town and posted the letter at the post office. A postman took out the letter from the letter box. He read the address and had a good laugh. He showed the letter to the postmaster. The postmaster was greatly impressed by the faith of Lencho. He didn't want to shake the Lencho's faith in God. That is why he decided to help Lencho. He collected money from his employees. He gave some part of his own salary also. But the money was less what the Lencho had asked for. The postmaster put the money into an envelope and addressed it to Lencho. Next Sunday, Lencho came to collect his letter. When he counted the money, he became angry. He wrote another letter to God. He asked God to send him the rest of the money. But he asked God not to send the money through the mail as the employee of the post office were a bunch of crooks. Question 5. How did the black aeroplane help the pilot of the old Dakota? The Black Aeroplane is an interesting story. The writer is a pilot. One day he was returning from France in his Dakota aeroplane. He was going to England. Suddenly he saw huge storm clouds on his way. He had not much fuel in his aeroplane, so he would not fly around the clouds. He took a risk and entered the cloud. Her compass and other instruments failed. Suddenly he saw a black aeroplane. The pilot of black aeroplane waved his hand. He gestured the first pilot to follow him. The rider followed him. He followed the black aeroplane for half an hour. Suddenly his plane was out of the cloud. He could see the lights of the airport and landed his aeroplane. In this way, the black aeroplane rescued the first pilot. Question 6. Describe Griffin's adventure in the London store. Griffin set fire to his landlord's house, then he took a drug and became invisible. But he had to remove his clothes. It was the middle of the winter. The air was very cold. He reached the London store before the closing time. He entered the store. After some time, the store was closed. Now he was free. He broke and opened boxes and wrappers. He took out some clothes and wore them. He was feeling hungry, so he went into the kitchen. He ate cold milk and drank coffee. Then he lay on pile of quilts. The next morning he did not get up in the time. The soap assistant reached. They found Griffin sleeping on quilts. He woke up and tried to run away. The servant ran after him. Griffin again took off his clothes one by one. He became invisible once again. Thus he was able to save himself.
काफी इम्पोर्टेंट लगेंगे एंड आप इसे लर्न कर लोगे आज की डेट में तो ही मैं कल शाम को इसका ग्रामर पार्ट भेजूंगी और अगर आप लोग लर्न नहीं करोगे तो मैं नहीं भेजने वाली अगर आपसे लर्न हो जाए तो आई हैव डन कमेंट में जरूर लिखना और आशा है कि आप सबको ये हेल्पफुल होगा